What's going on, guys? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to make a video talking about why I believe Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, the main event of UFC 308, will be fight of the year. We all know that Ilia Topuria came off a knockout win against Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 298, and Max Holloway for the BMF title at UFC 300 knocked out Justin Gaethje 4 minutes and 59 seconds into the fifth round with one of the latest knockout stoppages, tying Yair Rodriguez for the latest stoppage in UFC history. But I think that this fight has so many different implications on it and has so many different pressures for the different fighters, and I believe will be fight of the year. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fight Season MMA, and please go leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing is free, and 97.2% of my viewers who watch the videos are not subscribed, so please go down there and hit the subscribe button. It would mean an absolute ton since we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and as well, please turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified when UFC content releases in the future. But let's talk about why I believe Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria will be the fight of the year. Okay, so just recently announced, probably a week ago from Dana White, the main event of UFC 308 is officially Ilia Topuria defending his featherweight strap against Max Holloway. This fight is going to be absolutely a banger of a fight. In his last fight, Ilia Topuria knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in the second round with an absolute perfect right hand right down the pipe to absolutely explode Alexander Volkanovski's face. And in Max Holloway's last fight, he fought Justin Gaethje on UFC 300 for the BMF title. He said gladiators can go up, real gladiators can go up and win that belt, that BMF title in the lightweight division, a division above his own. And guess what he did? He went out and knocked out Justin Gaethje with some found power that he never had before in the featherweight division. But why do I think that this fight is going to be fight of the year? Well, first off, this fight is sort of an old striker v grappler matchup. We all know that Ilia Topuria has the grappling and jiu-jitsu advantage over Max Holloway, and I think that that's going to be a very key and prominent figure in this fight because Ilia Topuria's jiu-jitsu is some of the best in the UFC, and a lot of people don't really show it here. Or a lot of people don't, he doesn't have to use it, but in that fight against Bryce Mitchell, you already could see his progressions in the jiu-jitsu department, and in that fifth round against Josh Emmett, you could see of how good and how well-rounded Ilia Topuria's jiu-jitsu was in that standpoint, but also Ilia Topuria has the striking to combat Max Holloway striking as well. Max Holloway, we all know, has had some amazing performances in the striking department, is one of the best strikers in UFC history, has the most significant strikes landed in UFC history, and kind of is more of a volume guy rather than a power puncher inside the UFC. But Ilia is the complete opposite. Ilia Topuria is an absolute power puncher inside the UFC organization, and that is something that's going to bring it's going to bring a completely different aspect into this fight against someone like Max Holloway, because Volkanovski was a strong puncher, but he threw a lot of output out too. But Ilia Topuria is going to be the first person to go in there and actually have a chance to knock out Max Holloway, because I think Ilia Topuria's pocket boxing is some in the best in the UFC, and the other person is Dustin Poirier, and Dustin Poirier was able to beat Max Holloway with that pocket boxing stance, and I do think Ilia Topuria possesses a similar style to that of Dustin Poirier's in the stand-up pocket boxing department, but I do think Ilia Topuria is a better grappler than Dustin Poirier, which is going to be another factor in this fight. But I think these scrambles between Dustin Poirier Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway are going to be some of the best scrambles we've ever seen inside the UFC, and that's going to conclude itself to an amazing fight between these two individuals, and it's going to be the key of adjustments for both of these fighters, because we all know that Max Holloway likes to snowball his fights, and the big thing for Ilia Topuria is going to be able to combat this snowballing effect in his fights. In that Justin Gaethje fight, it was a perfect way to show that. First round, Max Holloway won that round. Second round, Max Holloway won in more dominant fashion. Third round, Max Holloway won even more dominant fashion. That fourth round, Max Holloway lost. Justin Gaethje had a really good fourth round to combat some of that. But in the fifth round, Max Holloway ended up getting the knockout, and Max Holloway gets stronger as the fight goes on. And Ilia Topuria, we all know, isn't really the fastest starter. He kind of sits there in that shell in that first round versus Alexander Volkanovski. It was a really close round. That round was the definition of output versus quality. Volkanovski had a lot more output in that fight, but Ilia Topuria had a lot more quality in that fight. But in that second round, we all know that Ilia Topuria landed the most quality shot on Volkanovski that we've ever seen, besides the head kick knockout by Islam Makhachev on Alexander Volkanovski 3 months prior. But I do think that this fight includes so many different aspects of mixed martial arts and MMA to where it's going to conclude itself into one of the best fights of the year. And like I said, it's going to be up to Max Holloway's team and up to Ilia Topuria's team to help break down each fighter for one another. I think that this fight is Max Holloway's hardest fight in the UFC featherweight division. I think that Ilia Topuria's pocket boxing ability, that grappling he possesses, there's a lot of ways that Ilia Topuria can win this fight. And there's a lot of mistakes that Max Holloway can make for him to lose this fight. But Max Holloway is almost a perfect fighter. He's got some of the highest IQ inside the UFC. He's got some of the best striking inside the UFC. And he has a little bit of grappling if he needs to employ it on a different persona. But Ilia Topuria is an absolute phenom and well-rounded fighter that is going to give Max Holloway a lot of trouble in the stand-up and on the ground. And the one thing that Max Holloway's gonna have to use in this fight and is going to really be tested, which has been tested his entire career, is that chin. This may be the first fight that we see Max Holloway get knocked out. And I don't say that because Max Holloway's chin isn't amazing, but rather Ilia Topuria's technique and his power is perfect. He sweeps opponents. He puts them to bed. He rolls them up into a nice, blanket and just puts them there unconscious. And the only fighter who was able to withstand that was Josh Emmett. And the only reason Josh Emmett was able to withstand that is he always had a high guard in that fight. But Josh Emmett's face looked absolutely battered in that fight in that final round. But Max Holloway's chin is going to be an absolute key factor in this fight to be able to withstanding the power of Ilia Topuria. But it's going to be up to Ilia's team to make a game plan to keep Max Holloway uncomfortable, switch in the striking, into the takedowns, and into every single aspect of mixed martial arts, because we all know that Max Holloway is one of the best strikers in MMA, but Ilia Topuria is a boxer and has some amazing Greco-Roman wrestling and jiu-jitsu that is going to truly aid Ilia in this fight to allow him to ultimately possibly get the win over Max Holloway, and this fight with Max Holloway being one of the best fights of the year, and in my opinion, the most anticipated fight so far in 2024. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights is MMA, and please let me know what you think about the Max Holloway and Ilia Topuria fight. In my opinion, that fight is going to be fight of the year. It is my most anticipated fight ever since Max Holloway won that BMF title at UFC 303, and I think it's the fight that needs to happen. I also think that this fight is good for Alexander Volkanovski because he can take some more time on the sidelines to recover from that, from both of those knockouts from Islam Makhachev and from Ilia Topuria to get in and get his title shot back at either Max or Ilia for this next fight. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights is MMA, and please go leave a like, comment, and subscribe. That is the best way to support the channel. And while you're down there, turn on the post notifications just so you guys are always notified when I release content. And please help me on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Subscribing is free, and 97.2% of my viewers who watch the videos are not subscribed. But thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Fights is MMA, and I will catch you guys very, very soon with more UFC content and news.